Well, this is the Racing Rant preview for Randwick on May the 27th, and you'll be looking at the middle seat and seeing that Glenn isn't here, and his seat has been filled by a very capable form student. Gord, introduce our special
Hey Roy, how you going?
How are you? Good?
Yeah, good
Roy
mate.
Kee, who has done his time on the around the traps of various form assessment bodies. I think you started with the Ratings Bureau, and you've
that's right.
climbed the hill steadily ever since.
It's a long time ago. Yeah.
So we've been delighted actually to be able to get you on the show. I thought when I put the call out on Twitter, I didn't dare to hope that you...
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's a great show that you've got here, and the punter show and the Racing Rant shows. They've just been a really good service to the punters, and I guess that's the most important thing. Is I'm a fan of the show first and foremost, and I think it's just great to have a place where the punters have got a voice.
It's just awesome to have somebody fresh too. Somebody who's a professional in the game, somebody fresh, somebody with a little bit more verve.
Well, hopefully I can bring something to the table.
And not too depressed.
Yes.
Roy, of course, we've had a few mammoth Saturday cards in Sydney of late. What sort of preparation and time do you need to get across a card like this, and where do you stand at this point in time Friday morning in relation to Saturday?
Well, I would definitely have to spend a full day on the meeting. Plenty of videos, plenty of form, and
watching the videos as you go.
Yeah, I'm watching the videos as I go. I like to refresh. Have a look at a couple of videos. The day before the meeting of particular runners in each race. I think that's important. But yeah, I mean, I guess I've got a basis for where I start now on a Friday. But as far as tomorrow goes, looking for track bias would be the main thing I'd be concentrating on.
So you're ready to go into the meeting, you just haven't obviously. Speaking of track bias, of course, that's going to be the number one watch out tomorrow, because Randwick goes back into the true rail, and pretty much the last 4 or 5 times we've played in the true, and particularly the last 2 times we've played in the true, it's been up the inside like you wouldn't believe. Any comment on that, Roy?
Well, I did go back and have a look at all the meetings. Navesh must have had a New Year's resolution or something from 2017. Every meeting with the rail in the true at Randwick's been leaders. Not sure what he's done there, but maybe we could get him on the show and ask him sometime. But I think I did actually wanted to seek out and have a look if the bias was present when there was a dry Randwick and a wet Randwick, and in both circumstances it was very leaderish.
So the suggestion is that since they dug up the Kensington track, that has somehow aided the drainage on the inside. Now I don't know whether
that's for Navesh, isn't it?
We need to get him on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's obviously, we're not at Rose Hill, unfortunately, we're at Randwick, so that's hanging over the meeting.
I've heard a few people say that they don't reckon the bias is going to be as significant tomorrow, but I'm assuming at the moment that it is. Yeah, well, it's
Any basis behind that thought?
No, I just think they're hoping.
Well, as we all are. We'll
okay.
And I guess Randwick had a bit of rain before, like last Friday. They sort of had an inch of rain last Friday. A couple of mils on Tuesday night, Wednesday. They say soft 6 at the moment, which Randwick is unfortunately always wetter than you think as well.
Yeah, that's true.
That's been the case for a long time.
It does not dry.
So yeah, it's certainly wetter than our form lead-ins. Now, race 1 is a 2-year-old race over 1400, and I think 3 horses tried to go up to the QTC size and missed out: Lord Cecil, Icon of Dubai and Cruise. So they'll all be racing here at Randwick tomorrow, and the market starts with Easy Go, Easy Win at $4.80. $5.50 Lord Cecil, $6 Sambro, $6.50 Kementari, out to $10 Padraig, $11 Allied Power, $13 Heliosphere, $15 Icon of Dubai, $19 Madame Moustache, and then we've got a couple of roughies on top of that. Sambro has pushed on in his last 2 runs at Warwick Farm from wide gates to be in the van, and I imagine that Josh Parr tries to push on here. Kementari raced handy on debut at Canterbury, stepped up in distance, could go forward again. Padraig raced surprisingly forward in that Sambro race and actually took up the lead. And I thought that horses like Allied Power and Madame Moustache, who are up sharply in distance, would perhaps hold their inside draws. Keen enough to start with. Gord, where are you going here?
I'm going against what are normally pen jobs for me. So I've got number 5, Lord Cecil, on top.
Good.
He's just mixing it up.
I
think, you know, we were all warm and
come
fuzzy.
here for the pen job, you know, so I can get my pen out and sort it out.
You know, the one I was sort of against was number 3, Sambro. I don't like the form round I kind of do by Padrag, so I'm against those two. And yet
does that extend back to easy go, easy win or not? Or you're just saying
I'm sort of giving easy go, easy win half a forgive off those because it was reasonably unlucky. But I don't, you know, there's a few other sort of little angles there. I mean, you notice Kementari, there was some serious money for it in that Wednesday Canterbury race.
Yep.
And I thought it underperformed, but, you know, they were spruiking it as being a better horse than Malahat by the way the betting was going, so I don't know what that means. That's a bit of a question mark, that one. And down the bottom there, I didn't mind the trial. I mean, I love Gerald Ryan Fresh, and I thought that was a little bit of a hidden trial, that number 11 Heliosphere. I think it's a little bit strange to having its first start over this distance, but it did show that it might have a little bit of ability. But,
yeah, trialled at Randwick, and I imagine that Michael D, who's actually one of the premier riders on tomorrow's card, because we're scratching around for riders, I imagine he just snags it back and looks for a run through the field.
Like Lord Cecil, I mean, it's run against some proper horses.
Oh, I know, it's one of your favourite horses. Taking aim.
Taking aim, I love it. And I had opinion of Disillusion. I know it's actually didn't do anything its first start in Sydney or whatever, but it was a hidden run, showed that it had a lot of ability, and this horse was very close to it, and I think could have been ridden with a little bit more balance and style, which I'm hoping I get tomorrow. So, no, clearly on top for me, number 5. What about you, Roy?
Well, I thought probably the similar thoughts with you. I thought Sambro was definitely the lay of the race. I think it'll ease in betting. I found it hard to split sort of 3 horses, so it's a tricky little race to open off in. Lord Cecil defied the bias at the Gold Coast, great run, easy go, easy win. Should have won at Warwick Farm, everyone saw it. Yep. I think it's been backed overnight, is that right?
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
From maybe 6 into about 4.20 or something.
What these early market moves mean, I'm not quite sure.
That's true. And Kementari, I think that'll be a strong race, that Malahat race at Canterbury. That looks a really good race. And I think there's probably not much between the 3 of them. If you force me to go with one, I'd probably say Kementari. But the other 2, you know, they're right there. I don't think there's much between them. I'll have to see some more movement in the market.
Well, we haven't lined them up yet, have we? So.
All right, so pretty much the horses we've mentioned, my numbers are 11, 5, 9, 8, so there's the unraced in there and those other 3 that you've mentioned. What about the fact that we're dealing with Paul Massara and John Sargent? They're not exactly your bread and butter trainers, are they?
Well, see, I'm on that basis, and one that you get a feel for a horse that runs slashing runs to come places, and I know it's only had 2 starts, but I'm getting a little bit of that feel about easy go, easy win, so I admit that it's got a really good chance, but I'm bit sort of, I wouldn't really want to be backing it, you know what I mean? Wouldn't be surprised if it won, but wouldn't want to back it.
There was one horse that I think is worth mentioning, for punters who like one at a bit of odds, African Rainbow down the bottom. I mean, it's run at Scone. It was fantastic.
So what's the setup there? B Baker's gone 900 at Kemba, 1,000 in the English dash, and then he resumes at 11 and straight to 14. It's. I
think the horse has got ability. I mean, if you look back, it's got form lines with Diamond Tathigator and the Slipper to winner.
And She Will Reign.
So you've got to stand that in good stead here, don't you?
It looks a deep race, and easy go, easy win would be one of those sorts of horses I'd be all over if I felt that the track was going to be fair and it wasn't John Sargent. You know, it's it's that perfect setup where it's been
wide,
11, 13, 14 at home. T. Clark is your number 1 rider.
Sure.
But I'm just a little bit scared. That's race 1. No mention of Icon of Dubai, who of course was the spruik horse from the Canterbury race that Easy Go, Easy Win and Sambro come from, and then...
I thought he rode it well at Warwick Farm. That pace was slow that Sambro won that race, and he whipped around them and got into the race.
A good spot, yeah.
So it's just an overrated horse.
Yeah, I think it's limited.
But I was thinking that maybe tomorrow morning I should just back every barrier 1.
Well, that's...
And you know, just in the
that's what
expectation.
We're dealing with, isn't it?
That if there's something happening, they will all start shorter.
Well, I suggest Icon of Dubai will, they won't be stamping the bias.
No.
So
but I mean,
bet closer to race time.
I understand you're not getting a firmer from race 1 because no one's seen the races. Sure. But the thought was there. Then we get into a race that always just about stops me doing the form the highway because they're just...
I love them.
Yeah, but that's because there's 10 pen jobs in the race. You don't have to look at all the horses. Anyway, the market reads, and very short, Sun Craze, the 3-year-old that resumed at Scone, $2.80. $4 Clipper, who resumes here, Bigelow Bob. $9 Leilu, $10 Conniving. And then we're $14 Loves a Hassle, $17 Somebody, and $21 along to the rest. Now, I didn't find a lot happening pace-wise in this race. Nadu, who resumed from a monster spell in a proper Mares Saturday race, she pokes along from the inside here. Conniving has some speed from the deep. Clipper will obviously hop out there and be right there. And other than that, it's, well, I guess there are horses with options there. Maybe Loves a Hassle has been forward at times. Somebody has been forward at times and might be revved up here. But not, on face of it, there's just not a lot happening. Roy, it's your turn this time, highways.
Yeah, I like the
like
highways. They're great betting races.
How do you feel, so when you see a highway field, do you go, well, I know these horses, so I can already start to put these together in my head, or do you actually have to familiarise yourself with the horses themselves?
I do know most of that country form well enough for these highways. I'll probably go through and just refresh my mind with a few replays and stuff. I find with the highways you're getting either two situations. Horses coming to town in this highway race not really going anywhere and sort of almost nothing can win, you know, or they're all very even.
Yep.
And then other situations like this race where one stands out head and shoulders above the rest.
Right, and tell us about this head and shoulders horse.
Oh, well, I think Sun Craze is a much better horse than these. He's always had a lot of ability from day one.
His SPs show that.
I guess for me, he looks the goods. He was wide at Scone. That form's been franked with Ghostly winning. That race, that's a city race.
I'm just question marking franking form on the bias on Wednesday.
Yeah, you make a good point. Yeah.
So I'm not giving it as much credibility as
sure.
I
Yeah,
normally
the funny
would.
thing is, Gordon, I think the thing is that, okay, Ghostly used the bias on Wednesday to win, but he also pissed in.
He was very
so I mean, you know, you've got bias winners that use the bias and scrape in, and you go, well, that clearly doesn't, you know, that assisted win doesn't count. Whereas,
sure.
You'd put up a margin.
You look at the last 50 metres, Sun Craze was superior to Ghostly.
Yeah, he tacked the line.
Do you think he was set up for that race? I mean, it's like you know,
he was
he's
well backed.
country trained, and he's.
I'd prefer him up to 1200 now.
Anyway, how is he going to be ridden here?
Yeah, well, that's the problem, and I think that's where price comes into it. I think at the moment he's probably around about his right price, around the sort of 260, 270 mark. If he gets to $3 and beyond, I think you've got to be on. If he goes to less than 250, I'm happy to let it go round just with the way the track's going to play. You know, I mean, it's probably going to be leaders, and that's the problem that
all right, so you're seeing a horse with accessibility, but other factors that are making.
What do you make a T. Clark riding the other one, the other champ?
Well, I mean, he's obviously the leading rider, but I just think it's a limited horse.
Resuming in a second preparation.
But I mean, did T. Clark have the choice, or was he booked early? I heard a rumour he was booked early, and that's why.
Well, I don't know. You might know more than me.
Dorothy Dix is there.
Yeah. Clipper's going to have fans. I mean, it's
she's going to put herself there, isn't she? You know,
all that sort of thing.
What you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get. It's going to be on the pace. Take advantage of any bias if it's there. I just think that those two highway runs last prep, it had every chance, and didn't really attack the line. So.
It's funny. You are actually looking for non-highway form that's non-country. So I guess the favourite certainly fits the bill there.
I'm forgiving the 1200 metres, third and fourth, first preparation. Just saying, you know, just wasn't quite seasoned enough and did loom like it was going to fly past him, and I just think knocked up because it was first prep.
So you're betting, Gord? You're betting 10?
Well, I've got some inside information on 10 too. Like I've watched.
I've speaking to the owner
trolls there, but I've watched the videos of a couple of jump outs. They looked quite impressive.
Wow, videos of jump outs. Goodness me.
That's what you see.
Twitter's going to explode.
I am so annoyed that both these horses are in this race.
Right.
That's what
okay.
I'm
So
annoyed about.
you find them both likeable.
Yeah.
And you'd prefer not to run them up against each other.
Yeah,
Is there
so I'm
another
not
runner
sure
in
what
this
it-
race?
yeah,
Because
somebody.
Leilu has carried this sort of reputation around that seems a bit undeserved, really, for a while, and she's under double figures here, Roy.
Just
I can see the coming back in distance being a positive, but I had enough of
yeah,
Leilu,
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
you?
Same.
There is one horse in here that can run a big race. It's trialled up well. It's got a lot of ability. I think it's just probably never really put it all together. Somebody, really smart horse, really good trial. It's wound up for this.
I'd sort of, you know, you're looking at your RacingRant form and you see its last 2 times where it came to town and got gapped. I think you can ignore those. It's a fresh horse, and that trial at Dubbo over the 1,000 metres was super impressive.
Yeah.
It's one at quite longish odds that I
it's
agree
good
with
value.
you has a chance. Yeah.
Okay, that's enough highways, I think. Race 3 is a Queensland Derby and Oaks lead-up. It's the 2,000 metre race for 3-year-olds, and the favourite currently is Sizzling Bullet at $4.60. Waller has the typical strong hand in this race. $6 Prometheus, who broke his maiden with a vengeance at Kembla a fortnight ago. $7 Wu Gok back in distance. $11 Stablemate Tumultuous. $11 Lord Macau. $11 Monasterio. $13 Mandalay Bay, 13 Cross Stitch, 14 Obscura, 17 Garban, and 21 and longer the other 3. Now, Lord Macau will be itching to find the front here. He's drawn pretty much the outside, and he'll be spearing across. Cross Stitch will get into her work and posse right up straight away, leaving Wugok to maybe try and get into the fray just after they sort of settle down. He, of course, took over and then got attacked at Scone. Other bits and pieces of speed. Prometheus has got to make a decision because he's stepping up in distance and could find himself in a handy position but wide. Sizzling Bullet is obviously another horse that wants to get into a prominent position, and Garban shouldn't be too far away for T. Clark. It's certainly a keen race. Gordo, 2,000 metres, are you in or out? 3-year-olds, it's got one of your poster boys in it.
Warming to the staying events I've noticed in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, the figures I did them, what was it, on Wednesday night, and I was like, Jesus, I'm making more money on distance races than I'm
Stop the fight. Stop the fight.
Anyway, yeah, I may do. I really want to watch the first 2 races, but I mean, you know, Mark, you've always made the point where in distance races, like, saving ground's the important thing, does that double whammy inside bias, or does that...
Well, I don't know, it's funny because we saw the last race on Doncaster today where Perfect Rhyme and Waking Moment were basically in the 3 wide line, and I don't know what was going on there, but maybe that was just because it was the last race on a big 10 event card.
Well, yeah, I'm interested in 2 horses. One which has run against the superior quality horses, which is number 1 Sizzling Bullet, and the one on the up, which is number 10 Prometheus. That was a pretty dynamic win last start. I think it can springboard off that. So they're the 2 I'm interested in. Yeah.
It'll be a hot horse here, Roy. Any opinion on Prometheus?
Off the map, probably. Looks really hard to beat. Yeah, it was just awesome at Kembla. He did this
2,000 metres? Everything's
fine.
very seasoned in this race.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. He did this with Royal Navy in January, I think, Snowden.
Yeah.
He took it down to Kembla, and it's got a real sort of similar feel.
And it ran around at good odds, didn't it, when it came to town?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think we'll be getting that tomorrow. I think it'll probably start closer to I think it's probably going to start around about $4 myself.
Yeah.
It was just too good, that win. That field wasn't that bad, polemic and whatnot.
It's come out.
And it really attacked the line. 3 wide the whole way. I can't go past it.
So its previous form, it's just maybe been loitering in very slowly run races.
He's had a few issues with it. It missed the start a couple of times early in its career. He's had a few issues with it.
They stamped it as a horse with quality from day one.
Yeah, I know. It started odds on Hawkesbury in that race that John Thompson's horse won.
Tarson, yeah.
Look, it had blinkers on its last start before Spelling, which was behind Oklahoma Girl and a mile maiden at Warwick Farm, where it was a walking race. And then it's obviously got stuck on the inside in a walking race first up, and finally had an opportunity second up at Kembla to show its style. So it's the starting point for me. But gee, I thought Cross Stitch, I know she's like exposed, but she worked hard in the Saturday race 3 weeks ago at Rose Hill, and she's just going to, she's finally getting a cheaper run.
Oklahoma Girl was in that race too and went well in Brisbane since. So
and
there's a
Black
bit of
and
a
Gold
form tick in there.
Look, she's
Gold's going to win up in Queensland, isn't it, Mark?
Black and Gold. my derby tip. I don't know what he's up to. Is he in the Grand Prix tomorrow?
Yeah, he is, I think. Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
About 2,200 metres. Yeah. Grand Prix.
Yeah, 2,200 metres. Look, sizzling bullet. He's been to the well a few times and he's had time off again to go back up in distance. I see his credentials, but I think he's too short at the moment. And Wurgok is very, very dour. It's coming back in distance. I thought was against it.
It's got issues with racing keenly, and I don't know if an apprentice will help here.
Yeah.
So, Roy, anything away from Prometheus that you're either interested in keeping safe or opposing?
Yeah, definitely the odds. I think Garban, you know, he's got that run behind the Derby winner at Rosehill that day, and the other day at Canterbury things didn't exactly go to plan.
Well, his 2,000 metre runs look really good, don't they? I mean,
he can stay. He gets a better jockey today.
I just watching the replay just didn't.
So you don't like that 1550, but 1550 at Canterbury is not 2,000 at Randwick.
Yeah.
He seems the wrong odds. He seems big odds.
So I thought
$15, $17, I thought. Yeah.
Start closer to 10 to 1. All right, that's race 3. Race 4 is a dodgy bodgy mile, benchmark 85, and supply and demand. $3.80 is your favourite. $5 So Willie on the 7-day backup. 6.5 is stablemate Shandana. $8 King's Guard, $10 in Costa Line, $11 the 3-year-old South Sonic, $15 it's Shimozzle, $16 Multifacets. King's Guard looks to hop out well here, but supply and demand led at Warwick Farm, came back in distance, couldn't lead, and then went into a Scone Cup that was going to be too fast for him. I wonder if he might make a play for the lead. And you've got signposted underneath them that would like to lead them all.
They're the 3 I have.
Yeah. Look, I'm hoping 2 of them don't bother and just let Kingsguard lead, to be honest. But
it did surprise me. I thought, well, I suppose there's a bit of a pox on that race, that the Canniescent race. The opinion of Newnham's horse Careless is that it's very plain and wasn't wanted at all the other day and ran accordingly.
Kingsguard went forward on a distance that isn't its pet. First up off a spell without a trial. Like I'm saying.
But what the mounting yards
What I'm saying is you can have a pox on the form, but you don't need to worry about it as far as Kingsguard is concerned.
All right. Well, just before you go on, Gord, what's your opinion of Kingsguard, Roy? Where does he sit in the firmament?
He's probably only got one asset, and he's got a bit of toe early, and he might be able to take advantage of the bias. But he's a very limited
Wednesday
animal.
Horse.
He's a limited animal.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out tomorrow, I think. So.
Yeah. So keen, Gord, you're keen.
Yeah, very keen. Love that run first up. When a horse over a shorter course, first up off a spell, sits OSL and kicks on like it did, tells me that it's in for a good prep. The other one that I thought was fantastic first up was Multifacets. In Costa Line can maybe improve third up after sitting, well, it was OSL as well, wasn't it? And the question mark horse is Devil Hawk, which is at long odds. I don't know what the story is with it, but...
T. Anglin booked first up, you know?
They obviously thought it had some ability.
Trial was sensational.
Yeah.
It looks come back really well.
Okay.
Long time off though.
So can we ignore, you know how it sort of flopped its last 2 preps? I was thinking after the trial, maybe we can ignore those.
No, it was gelded before its Melbourne run.
It showed ability as a younger horse. And as Mark said, this race isn't anything special. So I'd say it's the best roughie in the race.
Okay, you heard it here. Glenn Pollitt will be very jealous if you get this one home, Roy. So Willie is hard in the market, but a horse like he obviously strung 2 wins together, Wednesday Warwick Farm and then the standalone Hawkesbury. But he's not. He's probably better at Rosehill, and he doesn't have any aces. He's just got to go back and hope, doesn't he?
He's clearly the easier in the market for mine. He just looks too well priced, $5 at the moment. I think he'll ease. I don't like it.
And the favourite, Supply and Demand, who...
I'm probably not really interested in the race. I don't think there's a lot between Supply and Demand and Shandana. It's probably just a battle.
Well, they did start similar prices at Warwick Farm, and Shandana perhaps unsuited on the wetter track.
It's probably just a battle of racing styles between those two. I didn't really want to get involved in the race, but I'd certainly have to have something on Devil Hawk, and Sal Sonic is just flying.
Well, the stable's
so
flying.
it's funny you say that.
It's low
because
percentage stable and jockey, but you've got to have something on.
Sorry, he's flying because I'm watching the Scone race and he's like under the bat, like can't keep up.
I've got a theory with that. I think the second day the Scone track was very choppy.
Yeah.
There was something wrong with the ground the second day. The first day I'm not worried about. Second day, it was almost like the track was a little bit
It was just weird
shifty.
racing. I think you can...
It didn't seem to be handling the track down the side, Sal Sonic. Once it got into the home straight, it switched on, but then had nowhere to go.
I'm thinking it's a good angle on that Saturday Scone meeting, and that is that if your horse you're interested in next start flop, don't worry about it, and if it won, don't give it too much credit.
Yeah. Be very cautious about the form from that meeting. But $11 about a horse that's won his Beaumont maiden.
Yeah, but this race is nothing special. I think $11 is acceptable.
All right, so once upon a time, when you were starting doing the form, Roy, would you have looked at a horse like this and been less interested?
Yeah, the connections turn you off. There's no doubt about that, and you do have to be mindful of it.
But I mean, I guess one of the question I'm asking is when we start like investigating racing and classes and stuff like that, you know, we're told that, you know, these group of horses shouldn't mix with these group of horses, and
sure,
you know, eventually you learn the hard way that it's a bit of a game. It's more game on than the textbooks tell you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think you know, you've got to weigh it all up. I mean, it came out of a good race at Scone. I think that's a good race. This is nothing special. I mean, Supply and Demand and Shandana, what are they?
Yeah, well,
10th up each or something?
I mean, look, you can basically say that everything's a Wednesday horse in this race in some way.
Yeah, that's right.
Or their wins are Wednesday, or they've managed to snatch a Saturday win somehow.
That's exactly right.
If Kingsguard hadn't been beaten by Cawthon's Power,
well,
I'd be even more
confident.
confident.
It's hard not to look at that, you know. You know, and of course there he is with Miami Dade at Canterbury.
Yeah.
They're very, like, I think they're probably just a limited
Could
bunch.
just be a better horse this preparation. That's what I'm
I'm waiting for Costa Line just to get to 1900. I loved what he did last week, and you know, but it appears like it might be a pathway to somewhere else.
Did you think he really took on Moa that day?
No.
I thought he sat off him. I'm not trying to defend the tactics because I've actually been sort of highlighting some of their tactics in the past have been a bit. I didn't think that situation was as bad as some of the things I'd seen in the past with some of the change in tactics with Waller.
Yeah. For mine, that was the best way to get this horse ready.
Sure. Was
to put him on the pace. You know, it gets you fitter much faster than loitering out the back.
Yep.
And I'm in favour. Okay, well, let's brush past that race, even though we've given it a fair amount of time. Race 5 is a large 17-horse field of 3-year-old fillies. And $6 My True Love, $6.50 Noir, $8 Istria, $8 Just Dreaming from that Scone race you mentioned, $9 Siren's Fury, well back in distance, $9.50 Brûlée, $12 is Kawakini on the back up, $19 Hittite, the maiden winner from Newcastle, and $21 How Sweet It Is leads the others. My True Love will be on a search and destroy mission here. She couldn't get to the lead at 1100 first up at Gosford, but I imagine she does her best to get there here. She could be annoyed by initially Fast Ali underneath, but predominantly perhaps How Sweet It Is, who seems to be racing well forward at this preparation. Can Dream is another horse that may be caught a bit wide and work forward, but in the main I think you'll find My True Love endeavouring to establish a clear lead. All right, Roy, you have to have first go at this one. This is it's not pretty.
No, it's one of the tougher races of the day. There's no doubt about that. I just picked up on a couple of horses that I think can do something, and that was Just Dreaming. Again, comes out of the right race. Prized Icon and Company in that race. It was a 1-3 wide, forward on. I mean, I don't have a lot of luck with Christian Reith, but it's got to be the one to beat. It's got the best form, and Brûlée was a good run at Scone.
It was reasonably strong late in that race too. Like they weren't really going away from her at the end. You know what I mean?
It was a weird race, wasn't it? The way that France got poleaxed, you know, halfway down the straight, and then you know, you thought the race was going to finish this way, and then within 50 metres, it sort of all changed. Yeah, well, the fence was off by that stage of the day, wasn't it? And they were starting to get wider. Okay, so Brûlée, P. Roble seems to be a bit of an underperformer, certainly in the city. Yeah, that's true. This horse has always had, you know, this tiny wrap on it, and its city runs are. I have to come into it
mainly because there looks to be a lot of pace in the race, and it just had no luck last start. It was just a tragedy, you know what I mean?
And barrier 2 could be a positive.
And inside draw, so you might be midfield fence here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got a 1400 metre run at Flemington, is it? That
I'm going off that as a great form reference. So
hang on, what?
Yeah.
Hang on,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, because I can stamp some of the horses that ran against as good quality.
Right, but it's...
So Jennifer Lynn, Prompt Response, Invitabella.
You know, the story is that what goes on tour stays on tour.
No, not for me.
Have a look at Brulet's Sydney runs. This is going to have to be a point of difference where it's going to have to be an even billion bet.
Oh, I love it. Whoa.
No, just on.
Yeah.
We'll have to draw a line and say this is overperforming or this is underperforming.
I'm with you there. I saw its runs and it's been gapped by some pretty poor horses, but it did show something that's on at Scone to me that it's really looking for the 1400 metres next start, and it is flying at the moment. There was a period between about the 300 metres and the 50 metre mark or somewhere around there where it showed the dash of what is a very good horse, not a very good horse, that's going too far, but it's against weak opposition. A horse that's absolutely flying and is really ready to do something next start. I thought that, and then when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, I've got to find something in its form to
all right, so you went to
reassert it.
Yeah.
So I went.
Okay, what about something local for us as well, Gord? Because you're allowed to have more than one bet.
I'm only interested in 2 horses, Bruley and Just Dreaming.
Okay, so you've both got the same set, so I'll have to fly the flag elsewhere. I thought Noir did a really good job last week at Warwick Farm. She was in a shit position. We had Gay controlling the speed, and then there were 4 horses sort of lined up out there, and she just wasn't carried into the race at all. I'm surprised that I thought she overperformed under that situation. She's lightly raced. She's on a 10-day backup. She's got T England and a good posse here. The other horse for me is My True Love, who, once again, you get rewarded with Gay because whilst you look at the horses and go, I don't like that horse, it's all about the way they position themselves in their races.
Particularly tomorrow.
So Noir, and I was really interested in some of the form lines that have been franked with Noir, but I just can't get over the 5th start first prep. You know, it's just, that's a pen.
Yeah, well, that's.
I suppose it's the right guy.
Well, you know, but look, it's a valid point. It is a valid point. I certainly take your point. We might close it off there for part 1. That's an extensive look at the first 5 races from Randwick tomorrow, where they found horses to run from everywhere, and we'll be back with the quaddy legs in part 2.